Welcome to Financial Independence Retire Early. My name is Bird, and this is the 26th take of the 26th episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you find this information valuable and you share it with anybody else who might find it, useful, valuable, or interesting. Hit the like button, notification, subscribe, all of that. Let's just get into it. 26th episode. I'm going to be talking about circular economies, understanding and designing circular economies. So, what is a circular economy? Right. So for me, the point of departure in understanding a circular economy is just this weird misnomer or this weird mismatch, right, of the planet choking on waste while we're running out of resources, right? So it is said that if every human on this planet was to live the lifestyle of the average 1970s white middle class American, we would need about 4 planets to maintain that level of consumption. And at the same time, it takes about a year and 10 months or 1.8 years for the planet to renew all of these so-called renewable resources. So the water systems and the air systems, the so-called renewable resources. It takes about a year and 10 months for the planet to renew the stuff that we use in a year. So we are consuming at the rate that exceeds the level or the rate that the planet can renew the resources, let alone the fact that it said that we are running out of these so-called non-renewable resources. So there is a mismatch. The planet is choking on waste while we are running out of resources. So a circular economy says we need to then redesign economies and redesign systems that look at waste as a resource. So a circular economy reduces waste, reduces emissions and pollutions by using them as inputs for other end products. So there should be no such thing as waste. Waste is a design flaw. We need to reimagine waste as a resource. Everything that is produced should then go back into this system. We need to design economies. We need to design global value chains and production value chains, city design, lifestyles, and everything that we do in a way that is deliberately, consciously pro reusing, recycling, reducing, and restoring the natural ecosystems. So we need economic system, life systems that are deliberately focused on restoring and regenerating the natural systems that we have already destroyed so much. So we need zero emission or zero carbon emission business models. We need to understand that capitalism and consumerism, if they do not find an ecological balance, then the earth will fail. We will see large scale environmental collapse, biodiversity collapse, global warming, climate change. If mass material consumption does not find a natural biological or ecological balance, the planet will fail. And we also just need to acknowledge and understand that crass materialism, these are not natural biological phenomena for humans. Mimetic theory and just capitalism and all of these social engineering play a big role in the level of overconsumption and waste production that we have every day. So we also then need to re-social engineer humans to understand that waste is a design flaw, waste is a human flaw, and therefore waste must be seen as a resource. Just like with the planet, we live in a closed planet system on this earth, and waste is used as input in other systems. Then humans also, in our economics and in our cities, in the lives that we live, we need to understand that waste is a design flaw and needs to find its way back into the system to reduce the amount of resources that we're already wasting. Stop choking the planet, stop killing the natural biodiversity that exists, and just innovate boldly into the future using eco-modernism or eco-technology in a way that we understand and respect the natural and material consequences of technological development and just human development, right? So we need socially responsible, ecologically sustainable growth in our business systems and our business models and in our countries and in the world. We need socially and environmentally ethical growth that is profitable and also has zero carbon emissions. Like I said, we need business models that are deliberately zero carbon. So a circular economy means sustainable, ecologically beneficial economics. We need to promote economic activity that tackles climate change, biodiversity loss, and plastic and carbon pollution. So we need to improve our resource efficiency because we understand that we have limited space and resources. So we need sustainable development for consistent growth that is ecologically and people orientated. So we need innovation and investments that follow these patterns of sustained and sustainable development and consistent growth in a way that is ecologically responsible and ethically responsible. So structural, systemic approach to ecological sustainability, a structural, systemic approach to reducing and removing air emissions, industrial waste, residential waste, and pollution. So a structural and systemic approach to reducing our energy and material demands, our energy and material consumption in a way that is circular, and there is no such thing as waste. Again, design economies, design value chains, design cities, lifestyles, and everything in a way that is deliberately, consciously pro reusing, recycle, reducing, and restoring the natural systems. So how do we do that? Right? In a more deliberate, practical way. Right? Look at agricultural and food waste. There is so much, tons and tons and tons, trillions of metric tons, right, of biomass that is wasted every year in agriculture and food waste. So we then need to, just by designing a circular economy and just we will be forced to look at proper food distribution, and that in itself will, just improve food security. But the amount of organic waste and biomass that is left out by food and agricultural production should be then reused back into the system. Methane production for biofuel and biogas, right? Biogas that can be used in homes and hospitals and schools, and biofuels that can be used in cars and airplanes, reducing the rate of carbon emissions by using, fossil fuels, and also using this organic waste to also create fertilizer. So there are industries, methane production, biofuel production, biogas production, fertilizer production, and also using food waste and agricultural waste as further input into livestock food production. So there is $1 billion opportunity in just using agricultural and food waste as resources and inputs into other systems, right? Understanding plastic waste. I think there's also an untapped industry in just reducing the use of single-use plastics, right? Or effectively recycling single-use plastics. We need to force plastics to have as many lives as possible. So we need more systems that reduce and reuse and recycle plastics. We need to think very hard about how production and packaging works so that we can create ecologically sustainable packaging and production methods. So we need to decentralize plastic. Plastic does have a lot of use even into the future, but creating technological systems that effectively recycle and reuse plastic in itself is a $1 billion opportunity. And another way to look at it is landfill farming. Going back for waste as a resource, there are hundreds of thousands of acres of land that are wasted being turned into landfills. And we can actually go back into the older landfills that we've been building since the 20s or the 30s or the 50s, depending on which country or continent you're from, and actually looking at that waste as a resources, digging up these landfills and using the waste in there for energy production. Right? So there's also the amount of land that we can then repurpose for other things, because the land is then also wasted because it's a landfill, right? So there's land that we can reuse, and there's also resources that are in the landfills that we can reuse. And another really, really important aspect of landfill farming and urban farming, and just looking at ecological sustainable ways of using technology, is urban farming. Yes, e-waste as input and recycling for e-waste. There are tons and tons and tons and tons of precious metals and rare earth metals that are stuck in the backlog of e-waste that we have already been using and throwing away. So every year for the past 50 or so years, we've been throwing away gold, silver, copper, palladium, lithium, nickel, iridium, and all these other rare earth metals and precious metals that are being used for technological productions, and we just throw them back into the landfill. So if we effectively recycle technology, gadgets, fridges, TVs, laptops, cell phones, PlayStations, all of these technological gadgets, X-ray machines, in industrial, medical, and everyday purpose or home use technology, if we effectively build systems to recycle all of them, we can find so many precious metals and so many rare earth metals without having to re-dig up more mines. So there's a lot of value. There are billions and billions and billions of dollars trapped in recycling electronic waste, whether it's industrial, whether it's residential, whether it's medical, but all of this technological waste has tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of resources, rare earth materials, and natural precious materials that are trapped in them. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in landfill farming and in urban farming to, release the trapped value in all of the waste that we throw out every day. Another thing is just infrastructure, city design, civil engineering, and architecture. We need to create circular, zero carbon built environments. Whether it's your town, whether it's your city, whether it's your residential area, it needs to be thought about in a way that is deliberately, carbon negative and circular. Zero carbon buildings, waste as a resource in the buildings that we live in, work in, play in, and also in the towns, cities, and the country in general. So infrastructure, city design, civil engineering, and architecture needs to have an entire ecological overhaul in a way that from the ground up we are building all of these things in a way that is carbon negative or carbon neutral at least, and has zero waste. And this, for me, that's when I speak about a lot of these unique opportunities that we have as Africans. I think Africans do not have such a huge technological backlog where we need to undo all of these infrastructure that is, wasteful, in a sense that the lack of infrastructure that we have means that we can deliberately build carbon neutral or carbon negative cities, towns, and buildings from the ground up, right? So all of this lack that we have is actually an opportunity to build in a way that is more cleaner, more greener, more sustainable, and more responsible, right? So we can use the fact that we have infrastructure backlog as a gift and as an opportunity to actually build in a way that is ecologically and socially responsible, right? So infrastructure, city design, civil engineering, and architecture, that is a huge, huge opportunity as it relates to creating lifestyles, cities and towns that are circular and that are socially and environmentally responsible. And also we need to think about textile reuse and recycling. I mean, textile is one of the biggest users of water, one of the biggest polluters of water also. And just textile in themselves are some of the biggest cloggers of rivers and lake, small streams and rivers, and also landfills, right? Like the clothes that we wear, the curtains, the blankets, the couches, everything that is kind of related to textile, fashion, furniture. We need to completely relook how we reuse and recycle textiles, because they just use so much water and they clog up so much of the landfills and the rivers, right? So there's a big opportunity, I believe, in reimagining and understanding and redesigning textiles in a way that is reusable and in a way that is easy to recycle. And there is a small scale economic opportunity in secondhand clothing and secondhand fast fashion and things like that. But even on a greater scale, we need to look into just properly reducing the impact that dyes have on the natural ecosystems, that clothes themselves have on the natural ecosystems, and also the amount of textile, fashion, furniture waste that we create. And we need to drastically reduce, recycle, and reuse the waste that we produce in textile, fashion, and furniture. So that is circular economy, right? I went into understanding what is circular economy and trying to give more specific aspects of which industries can lead in designing circular economies. And this is agriculture, farming, and food production. This is plastic production. This is textile production. This is infrastructure, city, agricultural design, and also landfill farming and urban farming, where there's a lot of trapped precious materials and rare earth materials like lithium, iron, nickel, cobalt, copper, gold, silver, palladium, platinum, that is trapped in a lot of these technological devices that we've been creating for the last 100 years and has just filled the landfills. We need to go back to these landfills. We also need to create systems that properly can recycle the waste that we're creating today. So there's historical waste that we've been creating for the past 100 years, and there's more waste that we're creating today. We need to create circular economies that are deliberately focusing on how to effectively recapture and recycle and reuse all of these materials, all of these non recyclable resources that we have, right? Yeah, so thank you for watching. I hope this information was very, 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 very valuable. It's very dear to my heart, so I hope you can talk to me about it a little bit further. I'll leave my community details in the description like I always do. Yeah, man. Thank you for watching. Bye.